arms towards the sun. You feel the warmth of the rays, and then you know you're alive, and you don't have to be afraid of anything, cause you know the truth, and the truth is love, yes it is. Wasn't what they said to you, or anything that you learn from a book or from the news. It's not like that, cause it's a thing. It is something that you do. Doop doo doop doo. Doop doo doop doo. Doop doo doop doo. Dib on baby did long. Doop doo doop doo. Doop doo doop doo. Doop doo doop doo. Dib on baby did love's the highest truth. Nothing could be higher than love, my friend. Love's the deepest truth. Nothing could be deeper than love, my friend. When you stop and you take the time just to think about your life, you'll recall the ones you love and the ones who were.
Welcome to the Bassline, everyone. Michael Kane is the founder of Teachers for Choice. When dehumanizing vaccine mandates were imposed across society, Michael Kane became one of the most visible activists in New York City. He did his best to mobilize the teachers, yet still, thousands lost their jobs. Unwavering and undaunted, Michael joins us today on the Bassline. Michael Kane, how are you this morning? Welcome to the Bassline.
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me today.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to have you. The struggle continues. I was really honored to meet you at the rally outside of the Adam Clayton Powell building on 125th Street. I'd seen your picture all over the place. I'm not sure if I had seen you at a live rally or two, probably did. I didn't go to as many rallies as I would have normally because I have two young children. So it's kind of taken me off of the field where I'm the kind of guy I'd be trying to get to every rally if I could. It just isn't as realistic for me right now as it would have been just a few years ago. But honored to have you, and would love to jump right into this discussion in terms of the medical freedom movement. Was that something that you joined through the COVID experience, or were you somehow involved in the medical freedom conversation before that?
Yeah, COVID did not bring me in to the medical freedom movement. The real beginning, I was 18 or 19 years old, and my father came to me and said, "Dad, you have to he said, "Michael, you have to listen to this guy on WBAI radio named Gary Null." And so, what was that, 24 years ago, something like that, maybe more. I started learning about it, about medical freedom from Gary Null, how to take care of yourself, the dangers of vaccines, and all of those things. And for myself, once I turned 18, I never took a vaccine again. You know, once I was in control of all the medical procedures that I was involved in, I never got a vaccine as an adult, all the way up to the COVID situation. And then, so I've been educated for a long time and paid attention to it. But then in 2019, the religious exemption of vaccination for children in New York was in danger of being repealed. And I didn't have kids, and I didn't have skin in the game like that at the time, but I realized that this was a major issue, that people weren't recognizing just how important of a civil rights violation it was. So I got involved following John Gilmore and Rita Palma. These are two medical freedom legends in New York. These were the people you followed. You wanted to fight in Albany and fight against bad laws that were trying to take away bodily autonomy. These were the two people. And whatever they said, I did, you know, and I followed, and I got to know them. We lost that battle. The religious exemption for children to go to school is gone in New York. Some 26,000 children removed from school. Families started moving before COVID from New York because of this. And then right after that happened, literally the next month in July of 2019, as a teacher, I was a special ed teacher in New York City for over a decade at that point. I put out a petition on change.org called New York Teachers Against Vaccine Mandates for Educators. This is 6-7 months before anybody even heard COVID or what that is. But I knew
Wow.
from the fight that was going on for the kids, they were talking in Albany. Well, if the kids have to be vaccinated, what about the teachers? They were already talking about it, and people laughed at it, but we knew that that discussion was coming. So
Mm.
I put that petition out. It today has like 55,000 signatures on it. And at the time, all of my friends and colleagues are signing it. And they say to me, Mike, what vaccine is it going to be? And I said, I don't know. You know, it could be a flu shot. The MMR vaccine is very popular now because you might remember at that time, there was all these measles scares in New York and Brooklyn and stuff. But who knew it was going to be a mandate for a vaccine that did not currently exist at that time? But we were ahead of the curve because we were paying attention. And so then COVID comes, lockdowns come. I'm teaching kids. I'm teaching special education kids on screens. It was a nightmare. Some days I would just hop on and do riddles. My goal was just to get a kid to smile because this was a tragedy. I was seeing it in real time with some of these kids that wouldn't turn on their screens, that were in depression. And then we have to go back to school, thank God, but they make us mask up, they make us mandatory test. And at that point, I know a mandatory shot's coming at some point, and that's where we start forming Teachers for Choice, which was originally a union caucus in the teachers union in New York City, fighting and pushing for our rights. We end up losing that battle, and we end up taking it to the courts and to the streets. And then I meet you and so many other thousands of people who are doing this fight. Yeah, and then here we are, still fighting now.
Right. Well, that's incredible, man. I commend you for being so far ahead of the game, and I wish we could just alert more people to the seriousness of what you were aware of before COVID. Based on your
Well,
remarks there. I mean,
I think you know that COVID, the powers that be thought COVID was the keys to the kingdom, but they lost that battle. What they wanted to get, they didn't get, and so many people have been woken up. I'm seeing way more people aware, way more people supportive of us now than back in 2019. Prior
yeah,
to this.
I find it amazing though. Like, I still come across people. Maybe they're online, maybe they're not real people, maybe they're just little virtual operatives. I don't know, little sock puppets as they're called. But I mean, I'm amazed at the branch Covidian
Yeah.
who is still like, someone just the other day said, I'm not going to listen to your COVIDiot nonsense. It's like, you lost the argument, buddy. Like, and I said, I used that. What was the term that Christine Anderson said? She said, I'd rather be a COVIDiot than a guff idiot. But, I said, well, I'd rather be a COVIDiot than a cowardly ranch COVIDian like you, you know?
Yeah, no, you're right. What I would say though, what I would say is they're out there. They're
Those
not all
people,
solid.
how have those people stayed clueless is my question.
No,
you know?
so you're right. You're right. They're out there. There's definitely people that still they bought the narrative hook, line, and sinker so hard they're never letting go. But I would say that's around 30% of the population or less. Remember, when it hit, 70% of the population, I would estimate, thought that I was a horrendous, horrible, disease-ridden danger to society and I needed to be thrown away. I think that's flipped now. I think it's now
Yeah,
70%
well,
people on our
I wrote a
side.
whole article about this. Wrote a whole article about it, and it's something I really would like people to just take a moment to think about a little bit as far as people in our struggle, because we had, initially it was 81% they said received the shots. Now,
Mm.
that jumped up from just about 50% when the mandates came in, when they said, okay, now you're going to lose your job. So now you have a bunch of people getting injected who have various feelings about it, but who succumb to the pressure of potentially losing their jobs, which for some people means homelessness. It means no way of feeding your children. I mean, the level of coercion, that's another feature of this unbelievable denial, this aftermath of denial, we could call it. Maybe that's a Substack title, Aftermath of Denial. But I mean, people just, you know, like, it's one of the craziest things. Tell me if you've noticed this one, which is people who claim, and I've seen so many people do this, it's odd. They claim that they, meaning the authorities, never claimed that the vaccines would, quote unquote, stop transmission. It was only to reduce symptoms from the beginning. I said, well, what do you mean? No, the president said that if you're not going to get COVID if you take these vaccinations, quote unquote. Rachel
Right.
Maddow did a whole spiel about, when you get vaccinated, the virus stops with you, and never made a retraction.
Right.
The director of the CDC. Okay, you have a media personality, you have a politician who's the most powerful politician in the world in theory. Okay, but you also have the head of the CDC claiming it would stop infection or transmission, and then you have that lady who represented Pfizer because Albert Bourla couldn't make it to the hearing. So he sent a representative who made that comment that we were moving at the speed of science, quote unquote. And no, of course we didn't test it for infection or transmission. It was like we were flying a plane and putting it together in midair, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, what? Like it's amazing. If someone would call me a COVIDiot and they've taken 6 shots, which they're still behind, I say, hey, catch up, buddy. You're not keeping up with the science, right? You only took 6 shots. You're supposed to have 9 by now, you know. But they'll say, "Oh, you're an idiot," but I haven't gotten COVID. Okay, thankfully, knock on wood, I've been fortunate. I'm not trying to boast about that. I know people have had health issues. I'm not just trying to make fun of that at any point. But however, somehow, with my garlic, with my vitamin D, my vitamin C, etc., I have not caught COVID. My family has been healthy and safe without any vaccines for this thing. And you, on the other hand, have taken 6 shots. So it should at least occur to you logically that, hey, you know what? I don't want to be involved in this sort of new vaccine taking lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like
You
it's a
brought
crazy lifestyle you guys are
you
suggesting,
bring
and you
up
think I'm crazy?
you bring up a lot of good points. I'm going to start with the last thing you said there. Um, the idea of having to take injections to access society is something that some very big players want. Um, uh, Yearly, bi-yearly, quarterly injections to go to the library, to get a slice of pizza, to go to your job, to go to school. This is a greater agenda that they do have. So it's the same as like with the Hep B vaccine. They want to give a shot that's not needed and is potentially harmful to a newborn on day one of life, straight out of the womb, straight from God itself. And they say this because they want people used to this. They want the parents used to the schedule. They want them used to injecting their kids. So that's very important. The last thing that you just hit on there is that there is a new society, a new norm they want people ready for. I'm convinced of that. And there's a book called This Perfect Day by Ira Levin that's about, it was written in 1972. It's about a future dystopian utopia that is run by artificial intelligence and controlled by quarterly injections. So I know we all know Brave New World in 1984. Check out uh, um, This Perfect Day. It's a very important book. Now, you made some other important points I want to talk about. 50% of the population gets the injection. Then it goes to 80% when the mandates come in. There's a lot of fake cards there. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people, like you said, you got to feed your family. You might not have any other options. You might not feel you can reinvent yourself. So even though they say there is 80, there's a 80%, there's a silent majority. There's a big group there that was giving me high fives in the hallway. I had teachers say to me, Mike, I hope you win. Good luck. I can't do this. I'm a single dad. I'm whatever my situation.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and also just to quickly finish up on that thought too, which I forgot to summarize, which is that from the 81% peak, it's a straight slope down
Right.
to now, no, we're less than 2%. So the real up to date with all their boosters, I mean,
Right.
we're talking about probably less than 2% of society now. So it
Failure.
started out,
A
they were
huge
towering
failure.
like a mountain over us to begin with. And now our initial 19%, which has maybe grown to like 21% maybe, or 23% maybe, we're towering over their 1%, and everyone else are just fakers basically. They faked like they support the science, but they're scared or they're not convinced or whatever the case may be. But how the tables have turned. We just don't realize it.
Yeah, and there's a word for that. It's called failure. That is a huge failure by the CDC, by Big Pharma. That is not what they anticipated by this. Like I said, they wanted these regular, quarterly, bi-yearly injections for everybody, and people aren't having it. So, which is great. The moment that I was the most frightened in this whole thing was December 2021. January 2022. In that area, Austria announced it was going to be illegal to walk the streets unvaccinated, right? You would get a fine. You could get multiple fines in one day and you could be jailed. Boom, there it is. That's the moment for me where I'm like, and I'm planning rallies and we're rallying in the city and in Albany. Defeat the Mandates is about to happen in DC. All these things are building up. But that's the moment where I'm like, what is going to happen? Could people went nuts in Austria in the streets, because that's the moment where, are you going to kill people? Is the state going to lock people up, kill people, and go full on out draconian nightmare? They didn't. That's the moment where we get 40,000 people to Washington, D.C., defeat the mandates. 1 million people in Ottawa just a few months later in Canada. And the mandates start, this Leviathan slowly backs up. And like when I look back on it, it's historic. In the moment, I'm so frightened. I'm just living in fear, as feeling like one of the few who have stood up. But when I look back on it now, it's like, wow, we really had a real confrontation. I say that also to put out there, who knows what comes next? There could be a moment where the state is ready to kill people over what their agenda is with digital ID. That's the next one that
Well,
I'm
I would
really worried
argue that
about
they
too.
have. I would argue that they have, in terms of the harms that have been inflicted by these shots. And I was actually going to ask you about that, in terms of just
Right.
maybe what have you personally observed? What's your feel around that? Because I'll tell you personally, um, I just objected to the shot on principle, basically on GP, as they say, general principle. I just said, wait, hold on, this isn't right. I already am not crazy about the interactions that happen in doctors' offices necessarily. So it's like, no, I don't want the state now getting involved. That's not helpful to me and my health. I don't like, politicians who can't do anything right. Now they want to go into vaccine pushing. I'm not keen on that. But then I started to hear about the dangers of mRNA from various
Yeah.
dissident doctors like Sucharit Bhakti. And at first, again, I'm just thinking, are they right? I'm not assuming that they're correct, but here are some concerns. And then just very early on, I started to see signs of injury, signs of things just not being right. I mean, look at Tiffany Dover. I mean, the woman who took her vaccine as part of the publicity to promote the vaccine and collapsed right there in front of the media. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel too well, and keeled over. It's like, pro-vax people, you look at that and say, yeah, I want to take that.
Yeah.
And then,
I
my
remember that.
aunt, my one family member who's as staunch about this as I was from the beginning, she said a friend of hers got the new shot right when it was just available. I mean, literally within days of it being available, went into anaphylaxis.
Ugh.
So I said, and I'm a chess teacher. I bumped into the mother of one of my students on the street. Actually, it was on election day, for the mayoral election, and we were talking about this stuff, and she said, yeah, she had to get her shot for work, and she went into anaphylaxis. So I'm like, oh, wait, two people anaphylaxis? And then, the information about the excess deaths through Ed Dowd. Dr. John Campbell's been following that. Um, you know, just the Substacks I point to of Mark Crispin Miller and Dr. William Mackis, two former guests of this program. I mean, lots of odd deaths. The work of Steve Kirsch. He had a really strong new Substack showing, look, guys, like he got into statistical probability stuff that's beyond my mathematical comprehension, honestly. He was using,
Right.
algebraic equations, basically saying the probability of this person getting a heart attack and that person getting a heart attack on the same day, it's exponential. Like, they stopped putting what is it, the cause of death in obituaries. That used to be what an obituary was. Now, frequently, cause of death unknown, cause of death not
Yeah.
declared, or this
Yeah.
vague new term, another piece of evidence I'll submit, the term SADS. I'd
Oh
never heard
God.
of that. Again,
No,
just,
it never
just like people,
existed. Never
yeah, and
existed
just like
before
people
COVID.
claim that
Yeah.
they didn't say that it was going to stop transmission. I also hear people saying that, well, yeah, no, SADS, that was something I heard about before this. Really?
Nope,
I don't
no, it
believe you.
wasn't.
I don't believe
No,
you.
it wasn't.
So, yeah,
It
so
was not.
what have you witnessed in terms of the harm, and how do you feel now having stuck to your guns that this was something that you would never take?
Yeah, the sad thing, sudden adult death syndrome, so similar to SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. What I want to say in that is the harms of the COVID shot are unique, are um, massive when you look at the VAERS data and other things. But vaccine injury is real and has been around a long time. It's just been different than what we're seeing now. So that's something that people do need to keep in mind. In terms of the COVID vaccine injury, it's extremely real. It's shocking and horrifying. Um, I filed a religious exemption to vaccination at my job in New York City. It was never an inkling of a chance ever in any existence of my body or soul that this thing was happening to me. Like I was going to the mat on this. It didn't matter what it meant. I recently met a new ally of mine, Alfonso Ventura. He was in the shelter system because he said no. He ended up homeless in the shelter system in New York City, kicked out of a good union job in New York City school cafeteria. So him as well
You know,
too.
and I have to say, and I hate to interrupt you, Michael. I just hate to, but just I'm telling you honestly, brother. Like as you're speaking, I'm just grinding my teeth, honestly, because I'm like, it makes me so upset to this
Yeah,
day. The activists, who people I thought were my comrades, who stood idly by and watched this happen and tried to gaslight me like I was crazy for saying, "Hey, this is wrong. This
yeah.
is wrong." So it's like, yeah, you know what? People did end up in homeless shelters,
They did.
actually. And
It
you
did
guys are
happen.
such little bleeding hearts when it comes to this or that. But then when another injustice is inflicted, you just don't care. Now you're supporting that?
You want to know when it comes to that, and I agree with you. I come from the left. I was a teacher. I was a labor union delegate. I loved my union. I gave blood for my union. I was in the streets for my union, for the UFT, the teachers union here. I'm not a conservative. That's not where my political
Same with me.
trajectory.
Same with
Yeah.
same with me.
So I went through this same thing, that you're dealing with, and I want to say they were scared and that they were reacting from fear. There's a lot of truth to that. But why aren't more of them saying, "Oh my God, you were right. I was wrong. I'm sorry." Why is that not happening at the level and the degree that I would expect it to? We get fooled. It happens. And when you're in activist circles and when you're fighting for justice and stuff, yeah, you could go the wrong way. It could happen. So for
And
me,
and honestly, like I'll say, sorry to interrupt again, but you're just reminding me of my recent guest, Julie 3. She was pushing vaccine. She thought she was doing the right thing, and she got vaccine injured. And I commend her for saying, I'm not going to stay
yes,
stuck in the hypnosis. I'm going to
yes.
say, wait a second, no, this is wrong. And now she feels guilt. And I say, look, Julie, you didn't know. You thought you were doing the right thing. And I commend you for waking up when it was time to wake up for you,
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
totally agree with you that it's like if you
No,
didn't
that's
realize what
that's
was
the
going on
thing.
at first, that's okay. But wake
Yeah.
the hell up now. The
Yes.
information
Well,
is out there.
and so COVID has done that. You were talking about vaccine injury. Vaccine injury is real, especially with COVID in exponential forms. My dear friend Amanda, she was in hospitality. She got the COVID shot. She got viciously injured. She has seizures that could happen at any moment now. She has more health problems than that. She was one of the key people in pulling off the logistics of defeat the mandates, the rally against the mandates in Washington, D.C., where 40,000 people went to. She's continuing to be an organizer in this space. She was just a big organizer for Rescue the Republic and literally just sent me a photo today of her in a hospital bed because she pushed herself so far to pull off this event. When you do big activist events, thousands of people, big machinery coming in, trucks loading, unloading, and you have a major event that's happening, you're not sleeping, you're doing 12, 13, 14, 15-hour day work days and stuff. And she pushed herself to that point and she can't do it. And she's on like bed rest now for who knows how long, walker, maybe wheelchair. That's the type of injury the COVID shot caused to this adult woman who was previously um, healthy, and God bless her for getting involved and for taking that negative injury and putting it in this positive direction. I also know of a teacher who was coming to the rallies from the very beginning, was staying in touch with me, was had signed paperwork to keep her health care while she was on leave, but she reached this deadline point and she got the shot because she felt she had to. And now she's permanently injured. And now she is seeing specialists and chiropractors and others. And she's like, how could I have done this to myself? I knew that this was a risk. But
Oh
these
my
were the
God.
places and the choices that people got pushed up against to me. And for me, it was, well, it goes to my heart and soul on the matter of my faith, number one. But on number two, even the thought that I might injure myself, whatever money that I'm losing, I mean, whatever that is, I want to keep my
Yeah.
health. So
Yeah,
that's
seriously.
how it was for me.
And your life, right? You can't go to a job if
Yeah,
you're dead. You can't go
yeah,
shopping with your money if you're dead. Come
that's
on,
right.
people.
That's right.
You know? And and that was such a great point. I don't remember offhand the name of the sister at the rally, although I actually want to have her as a guest on the show. But the one speaker on the Adam and the occasion where I met you, the Adam Clayton Powell rally, where the woman made such a profound point, which is all of these people pushing this shot on you, they're not going to be there to take care of you when you're injured.
That's right.
It's your life now. It's your problem now. They can sit there and push this on you, whether it's the president or your employer or even another family member or whatever. But once you're injured, that's your injury to deal with in your life, you know? Um, but yeah, I mean, it's such an incredible place that we find ourselves in now at this point in terms of so much has happened, but we're still very much, it feels like to me at least, at the beginning of a struggle in terms of we
Oh,
have major demands that have not been met and maybe even have not even yet really been put on the table properly. We need our demands put on the table, I would say, first of all. So, what are your thoughts in terms of what we should focus on as a medical freedom movement? I think
yeah, that's great.
it's an ongoing question that I ask, but you're the perfect person, I think, to ask that question to, considering your level of activeness.
Yeah, that's a great question. What should we even be asking for, right? What are the demands? And so I talk to people smarter than myself about this regularly. And the first thing I would say is there's kind of two spaces. One would be end all mandates, and the other is valid exemptions. Okay. So valid exemptions basically exist in 45 states, I believe, meaning you can apply for a medical, philosophical, or religious exemption to vaccination for yourself or for children in almost any space. That might not be true for all healthcare workers. There might be, but even healthcare workers can apply for exemptions. Um, then there are people who say exemptions is an old idea, just like mandates are an old idea. Mandates are an arcane 19th century scientific, quote unquote, scientific framework that do not work. We need to get rid of all mandates. That also falls in line with people like Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, who is saying we must end all mRNA shots. The COVID shot needs to be banned, taken off the market, and no other can ever exist again. I agree there should not be mandates. I agree the mRNA technology seems to be so dangerous. Yes, it needs to be banned and taken off the market
Great.
permanently. But are we in a space where we're ready to make that demand and get that? Some people say to me, hell yeah, we are, because if we're not now, when are we going to be? Yes, we are. Make that demand, make it strong, and let's keep going. Others say maybe we need to do that, but we need to preserve and where we have them and fight for valid exemptions where we don't have them. We don't have valid exemptions in New York, in California, Connecticut, Maine, and West Virginia, I believe is where it is. There was Mississippi didn't have valid religious exemptions, but I can sued, and the great Aaron Siri, one of the greatest medical freedom attorneys in history, won a case in Mississippi that it was unconstitutional in federal court. It's unconstitutional to not have a religious exemption for kids to
We
attend
need
school.
that precedent carried
And,
state
and
to state to
and
state.
they now have it. Yes, they now have it in Mississippi. There is a series of litigations that are happening and going on now, trying to do precisely that with a goal of making it up, possibly and likely, to the Supreme Court. Would the Supreme Court of the United States, which has a conservative bent at this time, look favorably upon that all states, that it is a constitutional violation to not allow a religious exemption for anybody, for a child or for a parent in a state? So that's
See, it's
one
funny.
line. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's so
Yeah.
funny though. It's like conservative. Well, but so the opposing view that says I need to take an injection is
It's
liberal?
liberal.
I thought liberal meant open-minded and understanding of different points of view. Well, you're not very liberal. So, this is the problem with our language, which I constantly like
Absolutely.
to challenge.
No,
But
absolutely.
sorry, I
No,
love your list, by the way. Yeah, those are my essentials as well in terms of end all mandates. Remove the COVID shots immediately. Banning the mRNA platform, I think, is in order, which just tampering with nature. I think it didn't make sense on paper. I'm so amazed so many people went along with it in terms of inducing your body itself to produce
but
foreign
even
protein. Doesn't sound like a good
even
idea to me.
But even crazier than that, when you got this shot, if you would have asked, can I see the package insert? Because every vaccine comes with a package insert. If you would have, and people did, some in our movement, they did. It was huge, gigantic, blank piece of paper. They didn't tell anybody what was in the shot at all. So everybody's going and rolling up their sleeves to take these shots of a brand new technology that they refused because they legally did not have to tell you a single ingredient that was in it. Are we out of our minds? Like, I mean, and pregnant women, and they told pregnant women they
No,
needed to do this.
oh my God. I mean, and that's where this term gaslighting, which
Yeah,
means to make someone feel like they're crazy when they're not crazy at all.
right.
That's where
Right.
that term started being used more and more because, like, wait a second, these things are being rushed to market. I don't trust something that didn't go through the regulatory process. Oh, you're
Right.
crazy for thinking that. No, that's the most rational thing. Wait, I don't trust major corporations with criminal backgrounds. I don't like this sort of power relationship that the government is facilitating here. You're crazy. No, I'm not. Pfizer was involved in the largest settlement in the history of the Department of Justice.
Yep.
Moderna had legal action against them before even ever bringing a product to market.
Yeah.
Johnson and Johnson and the baby powder scandal. Like, no, I don't trust these corporations. And actually, you know what? I don't trust the government based on recent history and their various decisions to do various things and their inability to do things like secure decent water for the people of Flint, Michigan, which, by the way, is a problem throughout this country. Like, for some reason, that was one really bad case that got highlighted. But you
Right.
turn on a faucet in Newark and brown water is going to come out 3 days out of the week. So it's like, we have so many fundamental problems you guys couldn't fix, but now you're leaping into high technology interventions into our body.
And let's
Uh,
even
and then,
let's even take that back just a little bit. This is an example that blows my mind too. We have the Israel-Palestine situation, horrendous war in Gaza. They paused it, not for a new high-tech solution, right? For an old one, for the polio, because they are so caring about the people in Gaza. They're going to pause the war to inject everybody with the polio vaccine to save them from
wait,
polio. And after they're injected, they're going to start the war up again. Wait, what? What is
we
this?
blame you, it's okay, but if you die of polio, oh my goodness, we don't want you to catch polio as we bomb you
Unbelievable.
to. And you know what's crazy is, like, as a matter of fact, a good friend of mine who was a guest and my only former co-host on the show, my good friend Craig Blue, he was raising the point: should a Palestinian take a vaccine from an Israeli? Should a Palestinian take a vaccine from an Israeli? So why would you tell me to take a vaccine from the treacherous U.S. government, which has undermined my ancestors, is undermining my community? I don't trust the U.S. government, just like a
Right.
Palestinian wouldn't and shouldn't trust an Israeli. And he was making that statement, and then they implemented a vaccine program in Gaza. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, they really blew our minds with that one. Like, wow,
Well,
these people are just, and it's sort of like, isn't it like the fetishizing of vaccines at that point? We'll
well,
bomb
so
you, but
So it's and this gets complex because you're going to have members, prominent members of the Palestinian population screaming to get the vaccines. You're going to have that. Then they'll say, no, this isn't coming from Israel. It's coming from the World Health Organization. So there is a in my mind crazy, but a rationale that happens because vaccines have been sold to us as the single biggest, best public health intervention in the history of man, that PR campaign has been really successful. So there are people, I mean, during the COVID shot rollout, there were Palestinian supporters saying they're only giving the shot to the Israelis. They're not letting Palestinians get access to this technology, and that's
which
not
was to their
equitable.
benefit because then COVID spiked where it was received and it didn't spike where people were not taking the shot.
But there
So,
were still people in the
yeah, oh,
Palestinian
yeah,
camp that are
sure.
still arguing for it. So it becomes this complex
Yeah.
IOP. It becomes actually pretty interesting to
You have
watch.
these traumatized people who
Yeah.
were bombed severely and would probably agree to anything that would be anything resembling a ceasefire or an end to the bombing, and even an opportunity to communicate with the outside world in terms of, a desperate cry for help. So, it's not fair. It's not a level psychological playing field of like just a healthy person walking into a doctor's
It's
office
not
and
it's not a
agreeing.
healthy it's not a healthy psychological playing field for humanity on the planet Earth, period. Right now, the psyops that have happened to us and what just even me as an individual I have to go through to make sure I'm making healthy decisions for me and my family and that I'm not getting played and playing myself. This is I mean, it's just part of the human experience. It's part of whatever the plan is for us to go through and learn. It's hard to look at that way, but there are very many layers of psyop happening to humans all
Yeah.
across this planet right now. It's insane.
It's really crazy stuff,
Yeah,
and
it
and
is.
and it's also interesting too because now we're like in a realm historically where things that would have been just completely off the wall crazy to suggest are things that are just quite conceivable and quite
Yeah,
possible.
yeah,
Like for example, my previous guest, Dr. Ali Muhammad, he's saying yes, the injection campaign was absolutely to inject nanoparticles that can be used as operating systems within the human body. Again, I'm not someone who's qualified to confirm or deny that. Something I've thought of. It's something that now one of my guests has postulated and said, yes, that is happening. Um, I would like further discussion of that, further inquiry into that. But the point is, it's more than conceivable. It's very much on the table. We have things like
it's
smart
interesting.
dust.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up that side of things. Me too. I don't know if that's what happened. I don't know if that was part of the campaign at all. But how the hell can anybody say it was or it wasn't when we have the blank sheet, the blank package? They're not telling us. They're not telling. I believe till still to this day, I don't know if you get a COVID shot today. I don't know if there's a valid package insert in there 3 years later still. So for people to say they know for sure what is or is in there, and they know for sure what causes COVID, we don't know for sure. It hasn't even been
Yeah.
looked at. It hasn't even been properly examined. So I don't really take a position so much on those things. I go by what I've seen, what I've experienced. Oh, just one other thing I want to add on that in terms of getting COVID. I did get COVID. Um, my family got COVID. My parents, who were in their 70s, got COVID, and we went on a nutraceutical protocol as well as ivermectin, and worked very, very well. It ended up being like basically a low grade flu. My parents lost their appetite for 3 days entirely when they went on the ivermectin and changed their nutraceutical vitamin intake. Within 18 hours, they had their appetites back. And then it just became a very minor cold flu type thing for them to and listen, I don't know the exact mechanisms upon which that worked or not, but I can say I saw it. I witnessed it. It did work. So that seems like one way that you can quote unquote cure COVID. But I think they actually intentionally didn't look into this stuff, didn't find out all these mechanisms because they had the agenda to roll out. They didn't care. They just wanted you
Oh
injected.
yeah, I mean, they were so hyper vigilant in trying to stop the usage of ivermectin
Yeah,
as well as hydroxychloroquine, both of which now have solid studies showing no, they actually are beneficial for whatever reason, whatever the mechanism. Again, not
right.
qualified to weigh in heavily about that. But the thing is, it's interesting is they also impose remdesivir, and the same
Yes.
people who will say, "Oh, you can't cure COVID with ivermectin," they have nothing to say. They just actually will try to, end the conversation. I've noticed when you say, well, what about remdesivir? Is that helpful in treating COVID? Because we know it's helpful in damaging people's kidneys, and it was part of the deadly protocol. So it's weird how they attack something which seems to have benefit, and there's really no indication of harm, but they have nothing to say about this other harmful protocol, which was part of the official COVID protocol, showing really no benefit and quite possibly, and I would suggest more than possibly, a contributing factor in the protocol deaths.
Yeah, I agree. Remdesivir looks like poison to me. Before COVID was even around, this was a drug that Anthony Fauci himself was shopping around to find a disease to link it up to. I mean, that's what was going on. They had trials that happened with remdesivir that were horrendous and horrifying before COVID ever broke out onto the scene. Very, very similar to what we saw with AZT and AIDS, another one that Fauci was attached to decades ago, where they originally gave it to gay men diagnosed with AIDS in levels that were deadly. And then they realized that. And when they realized, they said, "Oh yeah, we lowered the dose, right? We gave less poison. Once we realized we were poisoning them, we gave them half the amount of poison." Um,
Right.
this is um, this is a sick game that sometimes you feel like you could chalk up to ineptness, but when you see it repeat, and when you see it repeat profitably in the manner that we've seen it repeatedly, it demands further investigation and questioning about what's really going on here.
Yeah, I mean, for people to not perceive by now that there is definitely a criminal component to what happened, I just have to say they're very naive. Bless their hearts, like they say in the South. They and I have to say, as a New Yorker, I can't help but feel disappointed in my own city. I thought we were a little bit tougher instinctively, and I thought we had more street smarts. It's like, what good is a New Yorker with no damn street smarts? Like,
Oh
this had
man.
all the makings of a con job in a
I
lot of
agree
different
with you.
ways.
I agree with you so much on that. I love New York City, man. I love New York City. I think the past 20 years that I spent in New York City, I grew up in the suburbs, and the second I could get in a car or even like a joyride in a stolen car to get to the city, I did. I lived in this city for like 2 decades. I just loved the vibe and the energy. Everybody was there. Everything was okay in some form or fashion. You found what was right for you, and it was there, and there was real diversity. And then this COVID thing came and our city just changed. It just shut down. Everybody went into this fear and this masking and this othering that felt so anti-New York. And that's why in August of 2021, we got 3,000 people out at City Hall. We had a whole bunch of people come and speak. I spoke, Tremel Thompson, a transit leader came and spoke, Mary Holland, from Children's Health Defense, John Gilmore. So many people came out and spoke. Joe Speaks Truth. It was just such a diverse thing. And there was the whole city was there. Everybody was there saying no to these mandates. And people wearing masks, people not wearing masks, all different ethnicities and diversities. And a lot of people said it to me like, this is the New York I know. This is the New York City that I loved and I've known for decades. Here it is right here. Um, and I hope we have some of that back in 2024. I hope so, but
Yeah.
I do worry that if another psyop comes out, New York City might go that same way and fall for it again.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote an article called "We Missed Our Muhammad Ali Moment," and I have to keep referring back to it because, I think that was the one, that's where we took it on the chin, and it was lights out, unfortunately, for the people's movement at that moment. If we
Yeah.
were able to somehow have had our wits about us, if we could stick together and we said no collectively, I can't imagine what we could have achieved
Well,
after that,
that's where the
because we would have
divide
been
and
so strong at that moment.
that's where the
Yeah.
divide and conquer becomes so important, because a lot of the conservatives did rise up, right? So over half of the movement of Teachers for Choice, Bravest for Choice, Cops for Freedom, right, of these workers that I'm a part of, over half of it was conservative. We had a lot of people from Staten Island that were coming out and doing it. And then so many of the other, progressive lefties that I had grown up with and that I had always watched and looked at saw this as, oh, they must be wrong. Clearly, these conservatives,
Reactionary.
yeah, clearly these conservatives don't have some of them. I think I see a Trump flag. Like, so no way these people possibly could be right. And that's really the divide and conquer, that the left right fakeness that keeps us from coming together as a people and fighting for what a real,
Yeah. Yeah.
what a real people's movement needs to be fighting for. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a major theme in my writing, and I really love what you're getting at there. I wrote an article called "The Contradictions Between Left and Right as Underscored by COVID." And we could almost, at this point, I'm pretty much ready to almost take those vague notions of left and right and just kind of slam dunk them in the garbage can at this point.
Yeah,
Because
good point.
you have left wingers who I say, well, you're not left. Because left means standing up when an offense is inflicted upon the people, and you didn't. So strike three, you're out, right? Like, ball game over. You're not a leftist, because when it was time to stand up for the people, you didn't. That's it. You can't just keep claiming you're something. We're
Yeah.
going to go by the facts. And then on the other hand, and they would hate to hear it, but some of my right wing brothers and sisters, if I'm going to call them, you're leftists. You're fulfilling the ideals that the left could never fulfill. Like, what's funny is, I haven't written this article yet, but I'm going to get around to it, where I'm going to write about the fact that socialists don't even practice socialism at socialist conferences. They don't know how to pass the ball. Most people will try to grandstand and hog the microphone rather than make a real free flowing, we're all equal type of conversation. I have to say, in the medical freedom movement, I've had amazing guests on this show, one after the other, some of which might be sort of right wing or conservative in their orientation, but they're champions of the people, and they were totally accessible to me. They
Right.
agreed to come on the show and talk for an hour without questioning my religious beliefs, my political affiliation. They just said, "Oh, you're going to give me a platform to discuss these critical matters? Sure, I'm there." And they've been so gracious. So it's like, to me, the medical freedom movement is being more left, quote unquote, by the ideals of the left, in my opinion, than the left ever was, in my experience, which is amazing. So, I
Yeah.
think we're just past the point of so-called left and right. It's an emergency, and whoever's jumping in to help is on the team, and that's it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's amazing that leftists, liberals, Democrats hate free speech, that they are fighting against free speech, that they are champions of content moderation, that they are talking about, is free speech dangerous? Is the First Amendment a hindrance to, and you know what, like, once I hear that, I don't want to hear anything else you have to say, because the left and classical liberals were the ones who defended Nazis marching in a Jewish neighborhood, literally in America. And they said, we despise what these people are doing and saying. But if we truly are champions of free speech, we must defend their rights, because one day they're going to come after us. And what's also
Yeah.
interesting about that is that the right and conservatives and Republicans have historically hated free speech. And we could go back to rap music in the 90s and see the court cases and the things that were done. That just as one small example of how conservatives hate free speech. Now they love free speech. Now, why? Because they ain't got it. When you ain't got free speech, you're a
Except for
champion of free
DeSantis.
speech. And
Except
the
for
last thing,
DeSantis, who thinks.
finish
Go
that
ahead. Go
thought.
ahead.
What are you saying? Except
Go
for
ahead. I
DeSantis?
was just going to say, except for DeSantis, who thinks that you shouldn't even learn about Rosa Parks. But you know, and people like we don't need to learn this
You're making
racially divisive history.
you're making the point that I really want to make. Conservatives will be anti-free speech once they get it back for them. That's the crazy thing. Who is really pro-free speech? Where there are some people out there that really truly are. Michael Sussman, one of my attorneys, civil rights attorney, legend. I mean, he has, if you look at what he has done in civil rights over 50, 60 years, he's a progressive lefty. He's also a medical freedom attorney. He also fights against censorship. He also fights for religious exemptions to vaccinations. A true classical liberal that says, no, these values are, but even though I disagree with a lot of people, he gets in a lot of fights with his own clients at times that are Trump supporters, but that's being absolutist on the free speech is so important. And we all need to check ourselves on that, because we're all eventually going to be confronted with things that we don't like or that we disagree with and wish weren't true. and now you're in a real problem, right? So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm ranting a little bit here, but
No, no. Well, it also, it brings up the classic case of Noam Chomsky, a person who used to be a hero of mine and also completely lost his mind through COVID. Noam Chomsky famously was involved in the discussion regarding the freedom of speech rights of the French professor Robert Faurisson. And he went in front of town hall gatherings of people who were questioning him one after another. What are you saying, Noam Chomsky? Are you saying the Holocaust never happened? How could you say this? How could you support this? And he had to repeat over and over and over again, I am not supporting what he is saying.
right,
I'm supporting his right to express it. And the
right.
distinction is elementary and the distinction is critical. I do not grant the state the right to determine historic truths, quote unquote, and codify that into law. It's a very slippery slope.
Oh, and we're
It's
seeing
really,
it, and we're
it's
seeing it, and even from supposed now conservative free speech champions that want anti-Semitism laws. Listen, I'm anti-Semitism, right? There are definitely people who have, racist and anti-Semitic views towards Jews. It does exist. I recognize that. But then when we start codifying things of what you can and can't say based on how you define that, and then that anti-Semitism, wait, that sounds more like anti-Zionism. Wait, are those the
yeah.
same now? And when you talk about slippery slope, there you go. You start moving into this space where anybody can be anti-free speech. We need to be so vigorous about this, because it's like when I was a kid and I grew up with my dad teaching me. My dad was a Vietnam vet that became a hippie when he left. Um, this was very clear to me that the left and liberals supported free speech almost as a religion, almost as a religious pillar of being a liberal. And to see that flip now that I'm an adult, but also I don't trust that it's flipped. It's flipped in a convenient way, scares me, because I wonder, where are the true champions of free speech? I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, yeah, no, you raise a great point, and I'm really glad that we ventured into that discussion because, yeah, I mean, my friend and former guest, Dr. Ben Marble, he makes the statement, which I find amusing, that he says, "I think you should be able to scream fire in a crowded theater, especially if there's a fire." You know, I also teased Dr. Ben. I finally got to tease him on a Twitter space because we've hosted a few Twitter spaces together. I've been honored to be his co-host. And I'm like, okay, you're always warning us about this commie takeover, Dr. Marble, but you're the founder of myfreedoctor.com, which is like the most commie thing I've ever heard of.
Well,
Free doctors for people.
I don't know if we have, I don't know if we have time to talk about how the term communist has been turned into anything you want it to be. I mean, like, I don't know that we even, when you talk about the right left conversation being meaningless, I think the way people, call Kamala Harris a communist, and she feels much more fascist to me. And, that loss of
Oh yeah, I
definition of
couldn't agree. Yeah,
terms.
I'm right with you on that as well. I think we're kindred spirits on this subject. Yeah, I don't find Kamala Harris or these various people to be communists. I don't think that they're versed in Marxism, honestly. I think they've read other things. I think they're more Milton Friedman disciples
Yeah.
than Karl Marx disciples, to be honest with you. And that's another thing I'll also add to this. I don't know if you'd agree with this thought, Michael, but it's like Marx is just an economist and a philosopher. First, he's a philosopher. You could take or read the philosophy. This notion of Marx as a Satanist and Marxism being just this horrendous thing. It's like I could think of worse economists, honestly. I think Malthus was worse than Marx and what he had to say about the human race. I mean, Marx made some good points. You could take it or leave it, but this notion of just Marxism is like the satanic Bible. I find it to be, it's what I call a cartoonish concept of
It
history.
takes something that is far more nuanced and deserves more careful attention and makes it into like Orange Man bad, right? I'm on the
Yeah.
other side, like Trump bad, Orange Man bad. No, nothing he's ever done is right. Even that though he got rid of the free trade agreement, the Pacific Agreement, right, which the Teamsters thanked him for, and that like did actually help the economy. No, that must be bad because he did it.
Yeah.
So we are in this space where people like memes to express
Yeah.
complicated, nuanced situations, and it just wants to
Mhm.
say, no, it's this, no, it's that. And that's very
Reminds me
dangerous.
also now of, labeling the Canadian truckers right wing. And I'm saying, sorry, laptop liberals, those are the workers.
Yeah.
Those are the men with calluses on their hands because
And
they
for
carry
people,
your goods into the store
and
that you get to buy because you work on a laptop or you work in some protected setting. And it's like, it's like, no, those are the real workers, guys. You can't just go blank. That is the people's movement. That's the
right.
workers' movement. They're the
And
actual workers who do actual work.
And the idea that people who are obsessed with workers' rights and workers' movements can't identify who are workers. And just because they don't hold all the same political and philosophical views as you does not mean they are not workers. I mean, you're just not operating on a plane where you could really think through how to resist. You're just not thinking it through. You're just bowing to the system.
Oh, Michael Kane, it's been an incredible conversation. I'm so glad we had a chance to do this. I
Me
know you
too.
have to jump into another Zoom meeting in like 2 minutes, and this program is a 1 hour time slot. So I can't wait till we get to talk again soon. Definitely want to pick your brain about some things. And it's been an honor to have you on the show. Could you please tell folks how they could follow you on Twitter or where they could keep track of Teachers for Choice?
Yeah, you should follow us on Substack, teachersforchoice.substack.com, teachers FOR choice. We don't use the number four anywhere. You could also check us out at teachersforchoice.org or on Twitter. We are at teacher_choice. So check us out.
Excellent. Well, thank you, folks, for tuning into the Baseline. Please stay connected with us. Check out my Substack, Jeremiah Hosea. Please hit me up at Earth Driver on Twitter. I'm hosting a great Twitter space in an hour. This is a pre-recorded program, by the way, but hosting another space with my friend and previous guest, Mark Girardot. And thank you so much, Michael Kane. Again, looking forward to talking with you soon, and have a great day, brother. Keep up
Thank
the
you so
fight.
much. This was great.
When you walk with open arms towards the sun, you feel the warmth of the rays, and then you know you're alive and you don't have to be afraid of anything, cause you know the truth, and the truth is love, yes it is. Wasn't what they said to you or anything that you learned from a book or from the news. It's not like that, cause it's a thing. It is something that you do. Doop doo doop a doo. Doop doo doop a doo. Doop doo doop a doo. Dib-on baby did alone. Doop doo doop a doo. Doop doo doop a doo. Doop doo doop a doo. Dib-on baby did love's the highest truth. Nothing could be higher than love, my friend. Love's the deepest truth. Nothing could be deeper than love, my friend. you stop and you take the time just to think about your life, you'll recall the ones you love and the ones who were always there for you. Better thank those friends better. You better make amends. Go and tell them now, yeah, yeah. Tell them what they mean to you. Doop doo doop doo, doop doo doop doo, doop doo doop doo. Dear bone baby, dear love. Doop doo doop doo, doop doo doop doo, doop doo doop doo. Dear bone baby, dear love.